Good afternoon. I'm sorry, good evening. Good evening. Can everybody who is online, can you hear me? Uh, a couple of weeks ago, I tried to go live and we were having some, I was having some technical difficulties with the audio. So it seems like we have one person in the room, Nakia M. Nakia, is the audio? Can you hear me? All right, we got John in the building. Thank you so much for tuning in, John. I want to make sure we have these bugs ironed out because last time the audio was not good. That's why several people requested the video, but I took it down due to the audio not being up to par. Okay. So Nakia says all good. So hopefully I have this issue resolved. Last time I was on Wi Fi, this time I'm plugged straight into the computer. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. First of all, thank you so much. Uh, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to tune in tonight for this discussion. Again, this is my second time, but uh, thankfully the audio is working much better this time. So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. There are so many other things that you could be doing at this moment, but you took time out of your schedule to tune in to my live discussion of the documentary that I produced. It's called The Myth of Race and the Evolution of Skin Color. It's produced several years ago. I would also like to thank you for the positive feedback I've received from the video over the years. I'll be the first to admit, from a technological standpoint, I'm not the most technological savvy person in the world as far as social media and keeping up with YouTube analytics and uh, uh, the Facebook and the what's the other one, the Instagram and all those things. So what happened, what transpired was I started getting I would get messages saying you have a new subscriber, but to be honest with you, I wasn't checking those things that much. And not only did I start noticing the the subscription levels going up, I started noticing the viewership levels growing up. So I'm guessing that was a tribute to people liking the video, sharing the video with others, and then it seems like it caught fire as far as the people who were clicking on. And one thing I noticed is that the majority of people, when I started looking at the analytics, the majority of the people who were clicking on was tuned into the third part, which a lot of people found controversial. But you can't have controversy in science, especially when we talk about empirical science. Again, that word empirical means what can be validated or rejected due to observation or experiment. So we don't guess. But again, there was a lot of pushback, especially on the third part, on the third part of the documentary. Where was that pushback coming from? The people who who claim to be of Indian descent. I got a lot of pushback from people are of who claim to be of Indian descent. I had a lot of pushback from people who classify themselves as white or Caucasian. Even had some pushback from people who classify themselves as black or African American. And I expected that. Why did I expect that? Because there's a reason why I started the documentary the way I started it, in which I talked about a great scholar by the name of Fred Kerlinger. And Fred Kerlinger asserts that there are four ways. Once again, one, two, three, four. He asserts that there are four ways in which people acquire knowledge. Number one, he talked about the method of intuition. Number two, he talked about the method of tenacity. Number three, he talked about the method of authority. And then number four, he talked about the method of science. So real quickly, what was Curlinger talking about? Number one, the method of intuition. That just means that you have a belief about something based on nothing concrete. You just believe it. You know, some people believe in Santa Claus. Some people believe in the tooth fairy. The basketball player Kyrie Irving believes that the earth is flat, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But that's what Curlinger was talking about, the method of intuition. You just have this belief. You know, some people believe that there is life on another planet. Have you been to another planet? No, you've never been to another planet. But some people just have this intuition that there's life on another planet. And then you got others that Curlinger talked about, the method of tenacity. Now, these people, no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how much evidence you present to them, they are going to believe what they want to believe, regardless of what type of empirical evidence you put in front of them. And that's what this is why when I presented scientific evidence to especially scholars of who classify themselves as Indian, from Indian descent, when you present that information in front of you, no matter, a lot of them still just stuck their head in the water. They said, nope, we ain't black. We're not from Africa. We're 100% Indian. So where's India from? And then later on in the show, I'm going to talk about a word that's called, a very important word that's called etymology. Etymology means the study of the origins of words. Every word has an origin. Is it Hebrew? Is it Greek? Is it Latin? Is it Coptic? Is it Demotic? It has an origin. And one of the things that I would always bring up to, especially people who had problems with the documentary, especially people who classify themselves as Indian descent. One of the things I would always bring up, number one, is give me the etymology of the word India, because a lot of times you just regurgitate what you've been taught. So that was Curlinger's second method of learning, the method of intuition. I'm sorry, tenacity. And then the third, he talked about the method of authority. What did Curlinger mean by the method of authority? Your parents. So your parents may have taught you certain things that my parents may have not have taught me. So you talk about your parents, books that you read, things that you learned from your aunts, your uncles, church, your community, your environment, things of that nature, the authoritative figures that you've learned from. See, everybody does not learn from the same authoritative figures. For example, once again, geography has a huge part to play in it. What part of the world that you live in, age, again, those things play a huge role in how people acquire knowledge or learning. Some people acquire knowledge through reading books. Some people acquire knowledge by watching YouTube. Some people acquire knowledge by what they heard from others. And so it's a very, very, very slippery slope. And it's important for you to ask yourself sometimes, okay, I think this is true, or I believe this, but sometimes it's important to ask yourself, where did I get this from? You know, I'm from Louisiana. I come from a very, very, very old school Louisiana type beliefs in certain things. For example, my grandmother believed that in order to increase income in your household, she believed that you take a piece of cabbage. You take a piece of a cabbage, a leaf, a piece of the cabbage, you nail it on top of your doorpost, the entrance to your door, the 1st of January every year. And she said greenback will flow into your house the entire year. Well, guess what? As kids, we didn't know any better. Any better. So we thought, hey, this is how you bring increase into your household every year. You take a piece of cabbage, peel a piece of the cabbage off, take a nail and a hammer, and you nail it over your doorpost January 1st of every year. And that will ensure that money will come through your household the entire year on a consistent flow. As kids, we didn't know any better. But you'll be surprised how some people have learned authoritative teachings from people, and they just hold on to it. Some people believe that race is real. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about. And then the last thing Curlinger asserted in his 4 methods of how people acquire knowledge is science and what I deal with, which is called empirical science. And once again, that word empirical means what can be validated or rejected due to observation or experiment. This will eliminate guessing. This will eliminate conjecture. This will eliminate human biases, because there's some people out there with some huge biases. And so this is how I'm able to stand so assertive, because why? It's empirical science. We can validate these things and we can reject these things. And one of the things that I did in my documentary was I rejected the theory that so many people are pushing, that the evolution of skin color comes from people's proximity to the equator. Now, when you look at it, hey, it sounds good. It sounds good on surface, but when you break it down to empirical, what can be validated or rejected, can it stand on its own two legs? No. Makes absolutely no sense at all. Zero. And so there were scholars who didn't like the evidence that I presented, but guess what? They couldn't refute it. And they know they can't refute it. And I received so many negative emails from a lot of people who classify themselves as white or Caucasian, who could not get over the fact that if you're a male, we can trace your Y chromosome DNA, or if you're a female, we can trace your mitochondrial DNA to a common ancestor who lived in Africa over 200,000 years ago. So how many we got in the room right now? We got 2 people in the room. Hey, that's fine. I'll roll with the 2. But again, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Somebody said your channel was recommended by YouTube. I'm reading a bit of the ISIS papers and would love to learn more. Yes. Thank you, Nick. Is it not Nika? Thank you, Nika. Let me just say this, Nika. You're on the right path. This is a powerful book. The ISIS papers are written by a great scholar by the name of Dr. Francis Chris Welsing, who died way too soon. Tremendous scholar. And I actually cited this book in my documentary because she and I, based on the evidence that we both conducted, come to the same conclusion, that the origins of skin color, or the evolution of skin color, comes from a skin pigmentation disorder that's known as oculocutaneous type 1 or oculocutaneous type 2 albinism. And this is why, once again, so many people have a problem with looking at the actual hardcore evidence that leads to that. So she and I are on the same page, even though I've never met her. I wish I could have, but maybe I'll meet her on the other side one day. But again, Nakia, you're doing an excellent job. It's very important, Nakia, Nikki, I'm sorry, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. The call-in number is at the bottom of the screen if you want to call in and correct me. But it's very important that don't take my word for it. Don't take Dr. Francis Quell's Welsing word for it. Don't take another great scholar, made a great book, Fairbanks, Everyone is African. See, there's some great books out here. But what I'm trying to get you to see is, don't take our word for it. Do your own research. See, you're smart, you're intelligent. Do your own research and you come to your own conclusion and see what your evidence, based upon the evidence that you find, you present that evidence. And if you'd like to discuss it, we can. But again, see, one of the things that I've noticed is that so many people have been brainwashed, indoctrinated. And when you try and give them an alternative view of scientific evidence, for some reason, they look at me and other scholars like we are the bad guy. No, we're not the bad guy. We're trying to actually open your eyes. See, we all should be taught correctly. But for some reason, there's this huge pushback for people who, for some reason, does not want to look at the scientific evidence that shows that mankind originated in Africa, and you are part of that branch that came out of Africa. So many people are in denial about that. And it's disheartening for me as a scholar, because I really thought, once again, that this documentary was going to actually be screened at more places. For example, when I completed the documentary, I want to say that was in 2016, if I remember correctly. The first place I had a screening at was Southern University. And then I had another screening at Louisiana State University. My good friend, Dr. Troy Allen, invited me down and in front of a huge crowd at Louisiana State University. And after that screening at Louisiana State University, I received a tremendous amount of support from scholars from that university. Next, I was in talks. Actually, we had it lined up to present at Ohio State University, Big Ten University. So I'm thinking, okay, this thing is gaining some momentum. People are really want to discuss the falsehood of race, because that's what it's all about. See, there's a lot of money behind promoting race, and I'll talk about that later. But I really thought that it was gaining a lot of momentum, and I really thought Ohio State was going to be the tipping point. Next thing I heard from the people at Ohio State, cancel that. You're not coming up here. You're not going to present that up here. Wow. Why not? Well, after talking over with certain people, we feel that right now it's not the time. So that was the response that I got back from Ohio State after the talks were so positive about, well, actually we had a date set for me to go to Columbus, Ohio and present up there, but they backed out of it. Why? Pressure. Where does the pressure come from? Dollars. See, it's big dollars in this. You got to understand this. See, those scholars out there at the University of Pennsylvania, these Ivy League schools at Yale and Dartmouth and Princeton. See, people, there's so much money behind pushing an agenda. This is why I want you to, when you start doing research, especially of the scholars who are pushing this false narrative about the evolution of skin color comes from humans' proximity to the sun. In other words, they say the skin color evolved because people who live closer to the sun actually turned their skin darker. And then people start moving away from the equator to other places where the sun's UV rays are much lighter, or less harsher, such as Finland, Norway, or Sweden. And then miraculously, the skin turned lighter. People, that is the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. But there's millions and millions and millions of dollars that is pushing this agenda. All you have to do, people, all you have to do, those scholars who are producing, who are backing up that false narrative, all you have to do is look at who's putting the money behind them. And you'll find that it's multi-million-dollar corporations. You'll find that they have huge endowments at Harvard, huge endowments at Yale, huge endowments at University of Pennsylvania. It's all about the endowments. For example, I reached out to a scholar just to have a debate about this. The scholar refuses to debate me because she knows that I'm going to present my empirical evidence that states that the evolution of skin color comes from a skin pigmentation disorder known as oculocutaneous type 1 or type 2 albinism. She knows it. I told her what my evidence that I conducted led me to. One of the first things that came out of her mouth, who's funding you? See, she wanted to know who is funding you. Nobody's funding me. Paid this out of my own pocket. So nobody funded me. I paid out of my own pocket. But again, it's a huge racket. For example, Dr. Henry Louis Gates, brilliant scholar at Harvard University in Boston. Brilliant scholar. If you watch his documentaries, a lot of them appear on public broadcasting. If you watch his documentaries, when it first comes on, one of the first things that's going to be announced is this documentary is funded by Ford or Kellogg's or some Fortune 500 company or some huge endowment or some huge political agenda or huge company. Is being funded. So there's money being funneled to do what? Keep you blind. Huge amount of money being funneled to keep you blind. Let me get to these comments. Explain the science on how we have the same mom. I can't wrap my mind around. And all groups died out except her descendants. Let's see. Claudia, from the research I've done, race is based upon the original mother, Aboriginal Eve. All right. So again, I'm going to address those things, but thank you for tuning in tonight. And going back to the crux of the documentary, again, I just had to go through the 4 things in which Curlinger talked about, because if you don't understand the method of science, you have to ask yourself, you've been indoctrinated by the previous 3, either through intuition, what your personal beliefs are, or to intuition, what your personal beliefs are, or tenacity, no matter what evidence or what somebody puts in front of your face, either whether it be right or wrong, you're still going to hold on to your beliefs like a dog holding on to a bone, or the authoritative figures in your life who have taught you, such as your mother, your father, false books, things of that nature that you read. So the documentary, let's talk about it. The documentary was based upon 3 parts. Number 1, first part of the documentary was based upon retracing the footsteps of all humans. I don't care how you classify yourself. I don't care if you classify yourself as white. I don't care if you classify yourself as Hispanic. I don't care if you classify yourself as Asian. All humans can trace your DNA, whether you be a lady, which is called mitochondrial DNA, or a man, which is Y chromosome. We can trace your DNA back to a common male and female who lived in a population in the Ethiopia, Tanzania, Kenya area, what's known as the Great Lakes area, around 200,000 years ago. So first part of the documentary, once again, retracing the footsteps of our species, the origin of our species back to Africa. The second part talked about the biological process that causes humans to look different. And then once again, the third part of the documentary talked about challenging a long-standing theory that the evolution of skin color is a result of humans' proximity to the sun, and challenging that and asserting that no, that's false. The evolution of skin color did not happen due to humans' proximity being close to the equator or away from the equator. Humans' skin color evolved due to a genetic mutation known as oculocutaneous type 1 or type 2 albinism. That's what we're going to get into. And that's what we're going to talk about in detail tonight. So first part, tracing our species back to Africa. How do we know that our species, Homo sapiens, how do we know that mankind was started in East Africa, in the Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania area? Why? Because we found bones. Who is we? Archaeologists have found bones. They've dated the bones through a very, very rigorous process that's called Argon, ARGON, Argon. So it's Argon. You got to say Argon twice. It's called Argon dating, where they've dated the bones. They found fossils of Homo sapiens in Africa. They found fossils of Homo sapiens in Australia. They found fossils of Homo sapiens in Europe. They found fossils of Homo sapiens in India, all across the world. And they measured, they analyzed the bones through organ dating. And they were able to determine through organ dating that the oldest fossils of bones originated in Africa. Not just our species, Homo sapiens, but all species that preceded Homo sapiens. But we're going to stick to Homo sapiens because this is our species. Homo means man. Well, first of all, Homo sapiens basically means big brain. We have rational thinking. We know right from wrong. So we can know right from wrong. We can decipher. We can make. We can think. We're not like dogs or animals that just rely on instinct to survive. Yes, we have basic human instincts, survival. We got to eat. We have to breathe. Things of that nature. But the brain, we were able to make cars. We're able to make houses. We're able to make computers. Why? Big brain, smart, rationalization, thinking logically. So that's what we mean when we talk about Homo sapiens. Now, how do we know that we're all connected? I think that's one of the questions that was raised up in the chat room. We can answer that in one word: sex. Okay, people, we're talking about science now. We're talking about science, so stick with me. Sex. This is how we know that we're all created. I mean, we're all connected. Sex, S-E-X. What do I mean by that? The definition, okay? The definition, when we talk about sex, everyone is here because somebody, a man's sperm, your father's sperm, fertilized your mother's egg. There's no way around it. There's no other way around it. You're here due to sex. Now, when we talk about a species, once again, our species is called Homo sapiens. The definition of a species is defined as a fertile group that can create an offspring, a baby, an infant. Now, if that infant can grow up and create another offspring, then we are the same species. That kills race in its footsteps. That destroys race in its footsteps. That annihilates race in its footsteps. If you take the sperm from a man who classifies himself as white and you place it in the egg of a female who classifies herself as Asian at the right time of the month, she's going to get pregnant. Why? Because we're the same species. All of our chromosomes match up. If you take the sperm from a man who classifies himself as Indian and you place it and you fertilize it with an egg from a woman who classifies herself as white, she is going to get pregnant at the right time of the month. If that happens at the right time of the month, she is going to get pregnant. Why? Because the same species. All of our chromosomes match up to create an offspring. And then that offspring can grow up and create another offspring. You're the same species. You can't get around that. So why do people look different? That goes back to the second part of the documentary. There's a mutation that takes place inside of a woman once that sperm fertilizes her egg and that baby begins to grow in her womb. It's a small mutation that happens every generation. So what's happening when that baby is growing inside of the woman? The baby is copying 50% of its genes from who? The father. The other 50% of the baby's genes is being copied from who? The mother. But sometimes those genes are not copied correctly. This is what we call a mutation. This is why someone may look like their mother and walk like their father. Someone may have their father's eyes and their mother's ears. Identical twins. Why do identical twins look exactly alike? Because they have the same DNA sequence. See, if we all had the same DNA sequence, everyone would look the same. And that's what we're trying to get people to understand. This is why people look different. And then I'm going to talk about human migration patterns, because all it is, people having sex and humans migrating. That's how we got here. There was a time, people, when no one lived in this continent that we call North America. There was a time when no one lived in the continent that we call South America. There was a time, people, a long time ago, when all humans lived on one continent. What do you think that continent was? Africa. We know this. What else do we know? We know when mankind left Africa that mankind went east. Mankind did not go south. Mankind did not go west Africa. Mankind did not go north to Spain or to Europe. Eventually, they branched off there, but when mankind left, mankind went east. One of the first places mankind went to what we know as modern-day Turkey, modern-day Iraq, modern-day India. Bingo. See, now we're getting somewhere. India holds the key to this whole puzzle. And this is why I had to go to India to uncover this mystery. It's not a mystery. Let me just say that. I had to go to India to uncover why so many people are silent, are reticent, are so hesitant about talking about the migration patterns of our ancient ancestors going east. And India was one of the first places that they stopped in. What's known as the Harappan, Harrapan civilization. It's people, we got to have this conversation. We have to have this conversation, because what's going to happen is it's going to unclog so many minds that have been polluted. And I've met people, you would not believe the emails and the phone calls that I received from people who classify themselves as Indian or from Indian descent. And man, they were so upset with me. We have nothing to do with Africa. No, we're 100% Indian. No, we have no association with them. And as any good scholar would ask them, we'll start off, etymology. What's the etymology of the word India? I don't know. See, the ones who are clamoring, asking me to rechange or rewrite my documentary, take India clean out of it. First of all, that'll never happen, because it's based upon empirical evidence. Empirical means what can be validated or rejected due to observation or experiment. That wasn't going to happen. Not based upon hardcore empirical evidence. Are you nuts? But you need to take India out of it. We have nothing. Please. Like India just popped out of the sky. So for those of you who are Indian descent, let's say you're listening to me tonight. So let's say India is separate from everybody else. If that was to be true, that means that the oldest fossils of bones would have been found in India, but they were not found in India. They were found in Africa. And that's how we know the migration pattern, through what? Dating the bones, through a very rigorous process of dating the bones, comparing them. Okay, this bone is 100,000 years old. This bone is 500,000 years old. So this is why we know, people, the grandchildren can't be older than the grandparent. There's no way you're older than your grandparent. can't be. Africa is the grandparent. India, Europe, Spain, Portugal, Brazil, all these other places, we are the grandchildren. You can't get around that. Somebody had to have sex for us to be here. My father had sex with my mother, but guess what? His mama and daddy had sex for them. And then they had a mom and daddy, and they had a mom and daddy. And so this thing just, all it is a big tree, people. And that's what we're trying to get you to understand. Stop getting so uptight. Oh my goodness, there's some people out there that want to kill over this. Stop getting so uptight. You're here because somebody produced you through sex. I'm from Louisiana. If I meet a lady, let's say she's from Texas, we get together, we have a baby. If we move to Brazil, does that change the fact that I'm from Louisiana, she's from Texas? No, we just to Brazil. We moved to South America. And that's all it is. Mankind started in Africa, and mankind left Africa, and they had sex and just repopulated. That's why India has 1.2 billion. Let me say that again. India has 1.2 billion people. 1 out of every 6 people in the world live in India. Let me say that again. 1 out of every 6 people in the world live in India. And that was one of my main reasons for going there. I've been to India 3 times. Love it. And pretty soon I'm going to be working on a documentary that's talking about the caste, C-A-S-T-E system in India. We got to do something about that. Because that thing is based upon one thing and one thing only. What is that? Color. In America, we have what I call a mental caste system. In India, that caste system is straight up in your face. But America, subliminal, but that's for another discussion. So again, mankind started in Africa, mankind went east, modern day Turkey, modern day Iraq, Israel, all those places. Read your Bible. The Bible coincides with it perfectly. When you read your Bible, especially in Genesis, when it talks about the Garden of Eden, when it talks about the 4 rivers that run through Ethiopia. Yes, people, Ethiopia. Ethiopia is the mother of civilization. You can't get around that. Now, let me get back. We got 5 people. Let me see. I agree with your message, Dr. Ahmose, and a couple of my friends agree with your message presented with your documentary. I share it everywhere. Thank you, Ray Black. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I meant to say mitochondrial Eve. She was African. That's true. Mitochondrial Eve. Exactly. Some of those children then exactly. That's all it is. People, when they talk about race, the same way you have a mother and father, your mother and father had a mother and father. And then your grandparents had a mother and father. Your great-grandparents had a mother and father. They had a mother and father. Everybody came through the womb of a woman. You can't get around that. How did that womb of the woman happen? Sperm. That's why you go to some, if you visit some places in Egypt, that's why the phallus is worshipped. I'm just hoping no kids are listening. The phallus, the penis. When you, all right, people, an obelisk, for example, what you think is the Washington Monument. Okay, Washington Monument. That's an obelisk. All you're looking at is a penis, a circumcised penis. Why did our ancestors realize the importance of a penis? Because life. And those are some of the great concepts that our ancestors had: life, the phallus, the penis. When it's combined with the fertility of a woman, produces what? Baby. I went to Africa. I've been to Africa several times, but I was in, what part of Africa was I in? Lord have mercy. It'll come to me, but let me just tell a story real quickly. People, one of the most beautiful things I ever saw. In this particular part of Africa I was in, they celebrate a woman's menstrual cycle. The whole village celebrates a woman's menstrual cycle. Why is it celebrated? Because it represents the release of the old egg. And what happens after the old egg is released? Is that it? No. After the old egg is released, what happens? Rebirth. What do you mean, old fool? A new egg is formed. That's how we got here. People, it is, my goodness, it's so beautiful. It is so beautiful, people, when you talk about the concept of life. But we've been bombarded with this thing that's called race, and it's killing us, it's destroying us. It has placed so many barriers within us. It's almost like you got this big, tall fence. I'm white, I'm separate from you. I'm Latino, I'm separate from you. I'm Black, I'm separate from you. I'm Asian, I'm separate. No, you're not. You've been taught a bunch of bull jive. Y'all got to forgive me, I'm a 1960s baby. That's how we talked back in the day. Bull jive. That's all it is, people. You've been indoctrinated. It's just like if you go buy a new computer and you put some type of software on it. That's all that computer knows, the software that's in it, whether it be Microsoft Word or whatever. But we're trying to, one of the keys to the documentary, one of the spurs of the catalyst of me making this documentary is think. You got a brain just like everybody else. You got a mind just like everybody else. All humans are 99.9% the same. All men have 2 testicles and a penis. All women have their female reproductive organs. There's no difference between a woman who classifies herself as Black and a woman who classifies herself as white. Everything is going to be identical. Why is that? Because we're the same. A man who classifies himself as Hispanic, his anatomical parts are not going to be any different from mine. Why? Because we're the same. But this concept of race, see, race is doing people exactly what it is designed to do. When they came up with the concept, when did they come up with it? One of the earliest examples that scholars that we see as race is what's called, was done way back in the 1600s, what was called the Spanish Inquisition, where the Spaniards were very treated the Jews very harshly. See, there's a reason why you don't see the word race in the Bible. Why is that? Because the term was not invented then. See, race is a man-made social construct designed to do what? Keep us separate. And until we are ready to combat that right there, we ain't going nowhere. We're going to be like a dog chasing its tail for years and years and years to come. Now, where did the term race come from? It came from a small group of people who classified themselves as white. Let me say that again. The term came from a small group of people who actually classified themselves as white. See, that's where my book at. See this book right here? Book is so powerful. Dr. Francis Welsing. tremendous scholar. People who classify themselves as white only make up anywhere between 5 and 8% of the world's population. Let me say that again. People who classify themselves as white only make up 5 to 8. That's on a generous estimate. 5 to 8% of the world's population. The other people with melanin. And we're going to talk about what white is. White, the classification system of white, that just means that your body is not producing melanin. That's all it is. And it's amazing how people do not want to have this conversation. When I went to India the first time, let me take that back. Every time I've been to India, the color of this remote control, I would say 85% of the people that all parts of India I've been to, the color of this remote control. Maybe some of you could look, if you look on the background, some of the pictures that I have hanging up, some are from India, some are from Ethiopia. Beautiful sisters that I met in India that are caught in that caste system. I'll talk about that caste system later. How do you get the two types of faces? And your dark, some have thin white look. See, okay. All right, look, despite the skin. All right, let's talk about what Claudia just talked about when she said in the documentary. See, when you talk about the white look and the black look, again, people, one of the first things I talked about in the documentary is you got to strip your mind of everything that you've been taught. Because if you don't strip your mind, you're gonna hold on to this white and black thing. Now, I use some of those terms in the documentary, but I use those terms so the audience would know what I was talking about. But see, if you don't strip your mind when you talk about blacks with white features, no, that's backwards. See, Africa has the oldest, the most genetic diversity in the world. You will never go to a place on this earth that has more genetic diversity than Africa. What do I mean? Again, a generation is defined as 20 years. Some people say 40 years. I'm not going to argue. You can say 20 or 40. It doesn't matter. But again, see, what a baby is being formed in that woman's womb, it's a small mutation that happens every generation. So you got genes that make up our eyes, genes that account for our lip size. You got genes that account for our ear size, our skin color. See, you could take two people. See, you could see, okay, let's talk about what we know. What do I mean, what we know? We're talking about 100% empirical evidence, what can be validated or rejected due to observation or experiment. The original people that walked the face of this planet, their skin was the color of this phone, jet black. Okay, let's talk about what we know, 100%. The original people who walk the face of this planet, when we talk about the Y chromosome and the mitochondrial DNA, all those things being traced back to Africa, that small population, their skin was this color. See, this color, jet black, can produce any color. What do I mean by that? If you look at my skin color, two people that have this skin color, a male with this color skin and a female with this color skin, can produce someone like myself with this color skin. Why? Because when the baby is being formed in the womb, the father's DNA is saying, send 100% melanin to that baby for him to copy. And the mother's DNA that accounts for the skin color is saying, send 100% of my DNA to that baby to copy that as well, to produce a jet black baby. But it's on the baby. See, the parents are sending those instructions through the male sperm, and the egg to that baby, but it's on the baby that's being formed. And sometimes when that baby is in that womb, sometimes the genes aren't copied correctly. And that's what we mean by a mutation. That's why someone can look exactly like their mother and frown like their father. And that's what we mean by a mutation. That's why you may see someone in a family, and you may notice that some people in that family, they may resemble each other, but they don't look exactly identical. Why don't they look exactly identical? Because they don't have the same DNA sequence. Identical twins have the same DNA sequence. That's why they look alike. So people, going back to what I was saying earlier, people, there are millions and millions and millions of people whose skin color is this color and their hair is straight. They have thin noses, they have thin lips. But if you don't travel outside of America, you'll never see it. That's why I posted a short video about the unseen faces of India. They're not mixed. See, some people just, they can't wrap their minds around extremely dark people with straight hair, thin noses, and thin lips. They say, no, that has to be an admixture of somebody. No, that's what we call genetic diversity. What does diversity mean? Different. They're not mixed. No, they're not mixed. That's why if you go to Kenya, you could go to Tanzania, you could go to Somalia, you could go to Ethiopia, you'll see the same phenotypes in a lot of the people. So they're not mixed people. That's what we call genetic diversity. There are some people in Africa that's known as the Twa, very, very short people. Some people refer to them as the Bushmen or the Pygmies, very short. They're not midgets. They're a little bit taller than a midget, but you see them in those clusters. And then you could go to some places, you'll see a lot of people in that village, 6'9", 6'10", 7 feet tall, boys and girls, 13 years old, 6'5". Why? Because of the genes. The gene flow that has been occurring in Africa so long. Because Africa is the oldest continent in the world. People had been reproducing babies. So going back to my point, if a generation is 20 years, if our species is 200,000 years old, people, then that's 2,000 generations. So that's 2,000 differences in nose sizes. That's going to be 2,000 differences in lip size. That's going to be 2,000 differences in skin color. All it is, people, all it is once again mutations. See, once a woman is pregnant, her womb has been fertilized by a male sperm, all bets are off the table of how that baby is going to look. Because that baby may copy some of the genes, the majority of the genes, how it's going to look from his father. It could copy the majority of the genes from his mother, or may not copy none of their genes. And that baby come out and the dad is looking like, wait a minute. I don't see myself anywhere in that baby. And then mama may be looking, well, I don't see myself either. That doesn't mean it's not the child, but we can't control, nobody can control how they're going to look. That's why people look different. That's why, once again, people, as I said, India holds the key in my estimation. And that's why I had to go there on several occasions, just number one, to study, number two, to get video, pictures, document, and then three, talk to the scholars out there. I've met some great scholars out there who actually did not hide the empirical evidence, the scientific evidence that shows that mankind, India was one of the first places that mankind relocated to after they left Africa. So, people, it's not hard. It's not hard. Okay. Think about if somebody dropped a bomb on the entire world right now. If somebody dropped a bomb on the entire world right now and only two people will be left, a man and a woman, they can repopulate the whole world again. What that means is those children are going to have sex with each other. We're all a product of incest. Can't get around that. Nah, I can't go with you on that one, Doc. You were sounding good. No, you can't. People, you can't get around it. Now, we're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years of separation through the generations of the incest. But we all going to come from that same vine, that same branch. You can't get around that. Why? Once again, sex. Your mother had a mother and father. Your grandmother had a mother and father. Your great-grandma had a mother and father. However far back you can trace your family lineage, they had a mother and father. You can't get around that. That's like going to a family reunion. Somebody has to be at a generation that's above the rest of the generations. So if you go to your family reunion in Macon, Georgia, or Birmingham, Alabama, or whatnot, and everybody recognizes great grandpa, he may still be living. He's sitting there at the table, and all of his descendants, and everybody say, "Oh man, great grandpa Jack, he still look good. He's still kicking." Thank y'all for coming out from all across America to celebrate the Jackson family reunion. But great grandpa, the oldest patriarch who's at that family reunion, he was a baby at one time. He had a mother and father. He had a grandfather. He had a great grandfather. He had a great grandfather, and so forth. And that's what we're trying to get people to understand. See, once you understand that, everybody has a beginning. So that should make it easier for you to be able for these things to comprehend into your head. No such thing as race. Why? Because human genetics kills race in its footsteps. Everybody is here because a man's sperm fertilized your mother's egg at one point in time. And it just kept going. And we can retrace those things. That's why the Y chromosome of a man and the mitochondria of a female are so important. Now, if you reject that, that means you got to reject the same scientific evidence when you watching when somebody does not want to claim paternity or pay child support, and they say, "I'm not the daddy," and they go take that paternity test, and that test comes back and say, "Hey, John Doe, you are 99.999999999999999% the father." That means you got to throw that out the window. Why? Because it's the same methods being used. This is how we know these things are people. It's not like we're making this stuff up. It's the same scientific evidence that's being used to determine the paternity test. If I break into your house and get away with some merchandise, but I happen to, let's say I'm climbing out of your window and I happen to cut myself climbing out of your window, and the cops come and they find the blood. And they say, "Well, we don't know who did it, ma'am, but whoever did it, he or she left some blood here. We're going to take the samples of this blood and we're going to run it through our DNA analysis." And they take that blood and they say, "Woo, ma'am, we got a hit." You do. Yeah, that's Okoye Ahmose. He's down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He broke into your house. See, that's 99.9999999. I could say 9 until I die. It's that effective. And so when they come to me to arrest me, I can't deny that. So if you don't believe the DNA, for the people who are skeptical about the Y chromosome, for people who classify themselves as white or Indian or Hispanic, if you're doubting that, that means you got to throw all the rest of this stuff out the window too. Why? Because it's the same methods. See, people, we have no excuses in today's world. We got this thing nailed down to a science. And people still, hey, Ahmose, don't come around me talking about race is false. Some people still want to hold on to that method of tenacity learning that Fred Kerlinger talked about, which means no matter what you believe, it could be right or wrong. All the evidence could be staring you right in the face, and you still hold on to it. No. I'm 100% European. Nope. I'm 100% Brazilian. Nope. I don't care what he says. I don't care what Dr. Francis Quells Welsing says. I don't care what these anthropologists say. Nope. I don't care what these human geneticists say. Nope. I'm 100% Scottish. Nope. End of discussion. That's why we're not getting anywhere. People. People hold on to these things. Claudia, how did you get the two types of faces in your doubt? I think we talked about this. White people have such a problem coming. That's a good question. Why do white people have such a problem with us coming from Africa? That's an excellent question. And why do so many scholars? See, that's why I commend people. Get this book, please. Add this book to your canon, collecting the books. Daniel Fairbanks caught so much flack for writing this book. People wanted to burn his house down. People wanted to harm him physically after he came out with this book. This book, as you can see, is called Everyone is African. It's an excellent book. See, I applaud people like Fairbanks because they do not let what the public's opinion think of them matter. They go strictly by the DNA science. That's it. Another great book. It's called The Journey of Man by Dr. Spencer Wells. For some reason, I can't find my copy. That's a great book. See, these are the scientists. These are the human geneticists. Thank God I finally ran across a human geneticist, Dr. Jeffrey Long at the University of New Mexico. If you watch the documentary, Dr. Long, that was the geneticist. See, science kills race in its footsteps. In the field of anthropology, they don't even recognize race. Let me say that again. In the field of anthropology, they don't even recognize race. Why? Because they know it's a man-made construct. And the majority of the people out there know it as well. But they for some reason, they hold on to it and they hold on to it. And when people such as myself try and educate them and present another viewpoint, nope. They just say, cancel him. Nah, we just gonna keep listening to the rest of them who say the evolution of skin color comes from people moving closer and away from the equator. People, I've heard some dumb things in my life. If that was the case, then the skin lightening product business would be shut down. People who live close to the equator, if they're trying to lighten their skin, they'll just say, hey, I'm going to Norway or Finland or Sweden for about 6 months and get my skin turned lighter. Or vice versa. People who live in Norway, Sweden, or Finland, light-skinned people, they'll say, well, look, I'm just going to move to Brazil for about a year, and I'm going to get as dark as I want to be. It's people, you would not believe how many people believe this foolishness. If I take 5 slices of bread, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if I take 5 slices of bread and put it in the oven And let's say I leave it in the oven for 1 hour at a temperature of 300 degrees. If I pull those 5 pieces of bread out from that oven, all of them are going to be jet black. And that's one of the ways I kill that theory right there. All of them are going to be jet black. One piece of the bread is not going to be tan. One piece of the bread is not going to be brown. One piece of the bread is one slice of the bread is not going to be dark brown. One piece of the bread is not going to be extremely brown, and one slice of the bread is not going to be jet black. They're all going to be jet black. So if the evolution of skin color is due to humans moving closer to the equator, then everybody would have jet black skin. You wouldn't have people with different hues of skin color. What part of our body can make our body turn colors and then stop turning colors? Makes no sense. People buy into that stuff. Nah, doc, you sound good, but so once again, you just hold on to that method of tenacity, like Fred Kellinger talked about. No matter how much evidence is presented to you, nah, doc, I can't buy that one, bro. I'm Brazilian. How else do we kill race? I talked about this earlier. Let me discuss it real quickly. There's a word that's called etymology. What does etymology mean? It means the study of the origin of words. Every word has an origin. Is it Greek? Is it Hebrew? Is it Latin? Is it Coptic? Is it Demotic? Every word has an origin. I'm 100% European. See, people, you'll be surprised how many people are uttering these things. They don't know what the hell they're saying. Okay, what do I mean? Ask that person who says they're 80% European, Western European or whatever. Just ask that person, what's the etymology? What's the origin of the word Europe? You know what the origin of the word Europe is? Greek mythology. It comes from Greek mythology, from a so-called story about a god called Zeus showing his love and affection for a Phoenician goddess. Her name was Europa. Lord have mercy. Let me say that again. The word Europe, the etymology of the word Europe comes from Greek mythology, something that never happened. It's the story of a so-called god by the name of Zeus showing his love and affection for a female goddess. Her name was Europa. Europa. That's where we get Europe from. And you got people claiming I'm of European descent. I'm 100% European. I'm 80% Western Europe, 20% Eastern Europe. India. Got to get on, got to educate you people. India. What's the etymology of the word India? Again, the word etymology means the study of the origin of words. What's the etymology? The original word of India is Sind, the Sanskrit word Sind. Look it up, people. S-I-N-D, Sind. That's what that area was once called. And then they took the S off. Who took the S off? Inhabitants who came into that region. They took the S off, and it was called Ind. This is where we get Indus. Where we talk about the Indus River, I-N-D-U-S, the Indus River. I'm pretty sure you heard of that in your world geography classes. And from Indu, we get what? India. But it's a man-made word. And so like somebody just made a comment about the Indians. See, we refer to them as that because that's what the name of that area was called, but someone had to come up with that name. The word Egypt, that's the Greek name. That's not the original name. The original name is what? Kemet. Ethiopia, that's the Greek name. Why did the Greeks people. So many of these names are named after people who came into an area and they conquered that area. There's a reason why in Haiti, they speak French. There's a reason why you jump a fence and you're in Dominican Republic, they speak what? Spanish. And that's what we're trying to get you people to understand. People are fighting, people are killing, people are upset, people are mad at me, people sending me these venomous emails. And when you try and educate them and point them in the right direction, they still don't get it. I don't care what you say. I'm 100% Indian. Lord have mercy, help them. Help them. Brazil. I've been to Brazil several times. I'm 100% Brazilian. What's the etymology of the word Brazil? That whole country is named after a tree, a Brazilian tree. And this is what people are going crazy about. Dominique. When we talk about Dominican Republic, the Dominican Republic. All of these things are named after people. The Philippines. Look it up, people. King Philip. That's, Lord have mercy, people. It's not hard. No, my wife Filipino. Well, where did the name come from? It's named after a man. You travel outside this country. You may travel outside this country. People say, what nationality are you? America. Where did the name America come from? America is actually named after an Italian. His name was Amerigo Vespucci. But we get so bent out of shape over these words and these terms, and man came up with these words and terms. Man came up with white. Man came up with black. People, there was once a time where nobody with darker hue called themselves black. I was born in 1968. I can remember a time when I was very, very, very young. Older people, man, you had a fight on your hand if you referred to someone as black. So, no, don't call me black. Great public of the Chicago Defender, Brother Robert S. Abbott, in that great newspaper, the Chicago Defender. He did not use the term black. Why? Because he knew it was a derogatory term. So no, we don't use the word black in my newspaper. We say the race. Robert S. Abbott, very influential newspaper coming out of Chicago, the Chicago Defender. He said, no, we're not using the term black, because he understood the people who came up with that term black, they also came up with the definition of black. And they also came up with the definition of the term white. And that doesn't need any explanation. We've heard that 1,000 times. So man came up with these things. And hopefully we can sit down at the table and talk about these things and get back on track. Because there are a lot of people talking about race out here. We need better race relations. We need better race relations. Well, the first thing we need to do is acknowledge that race is a man-made social construct. Get rid of these racial categories. See, they don't want to do that. Why do we have these racial categories in place when we know deep down in our hearts that it means absolutely nothing? Nope. So we're not, right here in Baton Rouge, there's this thing that's called dialogue on race. They will never ask me to be a part of that, because the first thing I'm gonna say is, hey, race is false. And we know these things. White. What causes someone to be white? What causes somebody's skin to be light? It's called recessive genes. Recessive genes have to come from dominant genes. There's no way around it. Light skin cannot create dark skin. Let me say that again. Light skin cannot create dark skinned. That's why so many people who have lighter skin, they'll just say, hey, let's just stick together, because they know that they're going to create more light skinned people. Why? Because you cannot create what you don't have. Hold on. I could get a quarter out of this dollar, but I cannot get a dollar out of a quarter. Let me say that again. See, I could get a quarter out of this dollar, but I can't get a dollar out of a quarter. So this is why, again, people who have light skin and they say, well, listen, I'm a procreate with somebody else with light skin. They already pretty much know the skin color of the child. But two dark skinned people, all bets are off the table. All bets are off the table. And that's what we talk about oculocutaneous type 1 and type 2 albinism. All it is a skin pigmentation disorder that affects the eyes. That's where we get the word oculo. So these people who are talking about the evolution of skin color is a result of humans' proximity moving closer to the equator or away from the equator. If you notice, they always talk about the skin color. First of all, that's not true, but let's say it is true. Okay, so how does somebody get blue eyes? How do some people get red hair? How do some people get blonde hair? And going back to the word etymology, what does blonde mean? The etymology of the word blonde. Blonde is Latin for yellow. That's all it is, people. They don't want to say yellow because yellow is too what? Yellow is too common. So they use the term blonde. Look the word up, the etymology of the word up. Look it up. Blonde is the Latin word that means yellow. Lord have mercy. The phone lines are open. Somebody called in. Someone that's watching you live. I apologize. Listen, I apologize so much. Two people, somebody called in. Hold on, let me read his email. I'm one of the actual subscribers that are watching that's live. You're live right now. I apologize, so disorientated. You actually pronounced my name Nika. It's short for Tanika, but Mika, and I look forward to hearing more from you. I truly do. Thank you. Bye. I am so sorry I missed that call. I'm sorry, people. Okay. Any questions? Let's see. We only have 5 people in the chat. Any questions? It's 8:18. I think I'm gonna get off in a few more minutes. Yeah, call back. I'm sorry. I had the phone on silent, and I apologize for that. Call back. So, race. Anyone out there believe in race? Does anybody out there know where the term came from? A man by the name of Johann Friedrich Blumenbach. Here we go. Yes, can you hear me? Yeah, I saw that, Nikhil. I know you're gonna kill me. Try it again. All right, so that's the. I'm still trying to get to learn this keyboard. Any questions or comments? Has the audio been good the entire show? All right, phone call coming in. All right, Nika, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Nika? Can you hear me? Yeah. I can hear you, but I should be able to hear you through. I should be able to hear you through. Hold on. For some reason, I'm not hearing you through the computer. No, don't hang up. It's I think it's something on my end. Let's see. Check. All right, speak again. I am so embarrassed. I apologize. I'll be the first to admit I thought I had it figured out. She say deuces. All right, people. Another somebody say audio. Yeah, Ray Black. Try calling. We got to get this thing figured out. All right, somebody said the audio was great. It's a social construct. Ray Black, could you call again if you don't mind? All right, so the Bluetooth is hooked up. I apologize for the inconvenience with the phone calls. I thought I had it ironed out, but please don't give up on me. All right, here we go. Hold on.
1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hey, Dr. Ahmose?
Ah, I think I did it right this time. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay, yeah, I can hear you. Let me mute my TV because I think one of them is lagging.
1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Okay, yeah. I really appreciate the documentary. When I first saw it, I got some really good insight, and I really felt like it needed to be shared with people, just everybody, just so they can know the truth about race. But just to make it short, my main question is, do you know what happened to the founder group for the albinos? They have a founder group for white. We know who black people are, the Americans, the Mayans, but it's not really a founder group for albino people.
Let me thank you for the input. Let me make sure we're on the same page. You're saying there's not a founder group for albinos. Let's make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, like there's not really, we have white people who, pretty much, colonize the world, that, and then we have Africans who are the main, who are the first people, the dark skinned black people.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like because we have the two different types of black people: the thin nosed, straight haired black individual who looks like an Indian, and then the rugged faced, also dark skinned with a kind of nappy hair individual.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is when that rugged black individual, when they have let's say a male and a female rugged individual, when they have kids that are mutated in albino, there's not really a big founder group in the world. Like they're not considered white. You can tell the difference between a white person with straight hair, blue eyes, and so-called albino person with nappy hair and blue eyes, but with a white skin, with oculocutaneous disorder.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about some of the points you're making. Okay, you're throwing out the terms white, black, things of that nature. That leads me to believe that you think that race is real, because I'm hearing you throw out some terms. Again, you're using the term white, you're using the term black. Do you think
No,
that
sir,
race
I don't.
is real?
I agree completely. No, sir, I completely agree with you 1,000%.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not really a way for us to understand like the conversation without using those terms. Unfortunately, I completely agree with you that we're all the same. We're all one race, and I believe in mutations. Though some of my friends, they don't believe in mutations, but I understand it after watching the documentary. I watched it at least 3 times,
Mm-hmm.
and I completely understand where it is pointing to, and where you have to understand the science of things. Where if you don't believe, a DNA test, you can't. I mean, if you deny this, then you have to deny the same science that influences a DNA test. I understand what you're trying to say, but for the matter, I feel like for the matter of the conversation, I have to use white, I have to use black, just so you can know what I'm trying to explain. But I do believe that we're all the same.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Okay, a person who classifies themselves as white, how do you think they got those physical characteristics? Light skinned, almost translucent skin, blue eyes, blonde hair. How do you think some people with those features got those?
That's through a mutation.
Okay. From what?
That's through, like you mentioned in your documentary, a mutation where not all of the, where there were not 100% of the genes from the mom and the dad were transferred correctly to the child.
Yeah.
So, there was a mutation where, where the gene for eyes, instead of it being melanated brown, it was instead lacking melanin, turning blue. and for skin, instead of being black, it was lacking melanin, turning white
Yes.
or lighter. So yeah, I understand that, but I understand your concept, but I was just curious, like just as to like why there isn't like I just want to hear your opinion as to like why the so-called whites with the straight hair don't accept the rugged whites with the nappy hair inside of their group.
I got you. Okay, I got you now. That
okay. Cool.
Yeah. You know what? That's a great point. That's a great question. I wish I knew the answer to that. It's almost like people who classify themselves as white. I've never heard them call a person who classifies themselves as Indian the N-word. I've never heard it.
Exactly.
They don't refer to them as the N-word as a group. And I think the great philosopher, Dr. Arthur Schopenhauer, so eloquently presented it when he talked about there's no such thing as a white race, but what he says is there's no such thing as a white race, but he says it's a faded black or brown race. So if you go to the end of the documentary, or anybody who's listening, you read this book, or you just Google Arthur Schopenhauer in his book that was called The Metaphysics of the Sexes, he just comes up right out and said, he said, there's no such thing as a white race. And then he talks about who his father is. He also says, he talks about the Hindu. Yep. And so when we talk about the Hindu, who are we talking about the Hindu? It goes back to the etymology of the word India. Once again, India, the original word of India is the Sanskrit word send, S-I-N-D.
Yeah, I just heard you. Yep.
So that's a great point you bring up, Mr. Black, and I'm glad you did. It sounds like you're a very young and astute young man. I just wish that there were more young men such as yourselves who, once again, can see through the politics. You can see through the political correctness, and you get straight to the point, which is science. Once again, can be validated or rejected. I mean, people, it's not hard, but again, there's so many people who just, especially the people who classify themselves as white, they just, for some reason, it seems like they can't grasp the concept that, number one, their features, light skin, blue eyes, blonde hair, red hair, hazel eyes, all these things come from dominant genes. See, recessive genes, people have to come from dominant genes. You just can't, light skin did not fall out of the sky. Light skin had to come from dark skin, and it doesn't go vice versa.
Exactly.
Light skin cannot create dark skin. You cannot create what you don't have. There's no way.
Exactly. And what I actually believe, this is my honest opinion, I honestly believe that the straight-haired individuals, the straight-haired people, I guess dark skin or white, I really believe that they just think that because, they have those features, and then the other black person and the other albino individual don't have those features. I honestly think that they believe they're just better than like rugged featured people.
No doubt.
That's what I honestly believe.
Hey,
that's what I honestly believe. Because when I look at Indians, when I look at white people, they just think that they are just smarter. They think they're just better than like. I think that's the only explanation. That's what makes sense in my mind, because I just see how black people with the rugged features, and even with the rugged features, I just treated all around the world, and the way just albinos, so-called albino. I'm just using the word albino because the way albinos are treated all around the world too.
Yeah.
They don't really have, like a dominant founder group or, a dominant, country or nothing like that.
Yeah.
At least black people have Africa. That's where we came from.
Yeah.
And other places. But like, that's all I wanted to call in for. I definitely appreciate your research and, just looking at your documentary, it just fascinated me. And I'm gonna try my best to share it all around Facebook, Twitter, just to share the message, make sure everybody can hear it because it's the truth. Just open people's minds, or at least open their minds to the concept.
Now, how do you pronounce your first name?
My real name, that's what I go by on on YouTube. Is Ray Black, R-A-E, last name Black. That is my alias.
And where are you calling from?
I'm actually in Georgia.
You're in Georgia?
Yes, sir.
Oh, what part, if you don't mind me asking?
Around the Savannah area.
Savannah, Georgia. Okay. Well, I'm down in old Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Louisiana? Yeah, I saw the phone number. Yeah, man, that's cool. It's nice.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, nice to know that we have like people, smart individuals who are actually pushing this concept. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for those kind words and your compliments. I really appreciate that. Again, it's a pleasure to talk to a young, articulate young man such as yourself, who's hungry for the knowledge, who's passionate for the knowledge, and one who thinks for himself. And you understand that, hey, what Ahmose and other scholars, what they may present, it could be right or it could be wrong. Let me do my own research and let me come to my own conclusion. See, that's the most important thing right there, Mr. Black. And that's why I commend you, because you may have listened to my documentary and you may have listened to other documentaries, but it seems like you said, okay, I hear what different sides are saying. Let me do my own research. Let me come to my conclusion. And it seems like you've done your own research, and your evidence that you've come up with coincides with the evidence that I came up with. That's what it seems like to me, because it seems like you're not the type of person that's going to take somebody's word at face value just because they have PhD or whatnot behind their name, or they teach at a particular university.
No, I've definitely did my research, because I heard for the longest time I kind of like questioned the fact that like people can like travel to another part of the world and get lighter. I was like, what? So you kind of telling me my black self could go toward Antarctica and I turn more light skin? Like, how does that work?
Thank you.
It just doesn't make no sense in my mind. And then a white person could go to like South Africa or Nigeria or Ghana, and they'll turn dark skin. Yeah, that was it right there. That's when I was like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. So I've heard the other side. This is the first time that I've heard your story documented, and it's been on YouTube for a while. I'm surprised I never heard it.
Yeah,
but this is the first time I've heard it documented, and like I was like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah,
this right here makes sense.
Yeah,
the founder groups, the different the way you phase it out.
That's right.
And I actually took notes. It was so good I had to take notes. That's how I know I was really enjoying what you were talking about. Like I saw the genetic diversity, genetic variant, founder groups, genetic isolation. It makes sense. Yeah. Like it just makes sense. It's like my common sense lined up for what you were talking about.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Everything is DNA.
But Mr. Black, let me just say this: is so many people who have been just indoctrinated. I mean the scholars at these huge universities, University of Penn, Harvard, Yale, Dartmouth, at these Ivy League schools, they got these billion-dollar endowments, and they just keep pushing that agenda. And their research is funded by these huge corporations such as Ford and Kellogg's and Chevrolet and Pfizer. I mean, it's just amazing the dollars that are put behind these scholars. And as a scholar, our job is to tell the truth based upon the evidence that we find. But not in this particular case.
Right.
It's a lot. I would love to meet Dr. Henry Louis Gates one day and just sit down and talk with him. And one of the questions
I'm gonna get all those books. Those books you recommended. I'm gonna get all of them.
I'm sorry, you had a comment?
No, yeah, my bad. I was just saying all those books that you recommended. Where you said I think one of them was Everyone is African.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get all those books because I know they're gonna be good reading for me.
Yeah. Also, I don't have it in front of me, but also get what's called The Journey of Man. It was written by Spencer Wells, anthropologist. And again, see, people, race has no validity in the field of anthropology. One of the quickest ways, if people in the anthropology field, they'll find out if you're serious about going into that field, or if you're a novice or whatnot, if you mention the word race. And they look at you like, that has no bearing in anthropology. None. But those anthropologists, those same ones who will tell you that race has no validity in their field, they're quiet as well. Now they'll tell that to you face to face, but are they outside in front of the White House, or in front of the governor's office, or at the school board meetings? Are they in the front lines at the Metro Council? Are they out there in the front line saying, hey, race has no validity? Nope, they're not going to do that. They're not going to stick their neck out there on that. So when I stick my neck out there on the line, people just say, well, he's only one person. Just ignore him. He's just a nutcase. Nobody cares about him. And that's the battle that we face.
Nah. I've shared it with two of my friends. Like it was so real. I shared it with two of my friends. One of them, he believes it. He just doesn't see the point of actually sharing the message. Then my other friend, he believes it as well. He's actually a chemistry major.
Yeah.
And he believes it fully. He's just like me. He believes it.
Yeah.
And he kind of has some doubts. He feels like he doesn't really believe. Cause that's another question I wanted to ask. So when you have like some white people, they might have brown eyes, and some white people may have black hair. They don't necessarily have blonde hair, but they have black hair. I know why that is. It's because, like you said, you have the mixture of people who are black, who may be light skinned, or maybe white, albino, classified as white. Yeah. And then they have had sex, and then like their children came out to be not necessarily with oculocutaneous, but like they may have the cutaneous part, I believe that's the skin, but not the ocular part, where your eyes are blue, but they still have like melanated eyes. And I'm not sure if there's a name for the hair, like where your hair changes. Yeah. I'm not sure if there's a name, but like their hair is black. Yeah. But yeah, I know where that comes from.
Yeah, that's.
But yeah, man, I definitely shared it with my friends. Yeah.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 30. I'm 30 years old. I'm about to turn 30 in April.
Good. Bright, articulate young man. That's good. But again, see, we have genes that determine, once again, the color of our eyes, the nose size, lip size, genes that code what type of hair you're going to have. And like we said, once that the male sperm fertilizes the woman's egg, that even though the genes from the father is being sent to the child, and the genes from the mother are being sent to the child, that baby, it's just like the lottery. It may copy some of those genes, maybe from the father's nose, and may get some of their genes from the mama's eyes, or it could get the whole facial frontal part of the father, and then that baby could turn to the side and look just like the mother and got the mother's profile. Or the baby could walk like their mother and, frown like their father. So we got genes that code for your hair, the eyes, the eyebrows, the fingers, our toes, the toe size. Some people got crooked limbs. I mean, we don't know how that baby's going to turn out. The same way when we were being formed in our mother's womb, we had no control. over, when I was younger, people used to call me Black Jap because of my eyes. But when I got older and I started doing research, it's not that my eyes are smaller. I have what's called an epicanthal fold. And that's what Asian people who classify themselves as Asian. It's an epicanthal fold. All that is an extra layer of skin that comes over the eyes that makes the eye look slanted. But my eyes and people who classify themselves as Asians, our eyeballs are the same size as anybody else's. But if you got that layer of skin over your eyelids that comes down just a little lower, then your eyes are going to appear smaller. But that's just genes that have been passed down for generations. So all of these things can be explained. The same thing happens in the animal kingdom. You got albino horses, you got albino alligators, you got albino snakes.
Right.
When you talk about animals work the same way. This is how, you may have a Doberman Pinscher and a German Shepherd. They look totally different. But if that male German Shepherd can get down low enough and have sex with that small Chihuahua, guess what? That Chihuahua is going to have a baby. Why? Same species.
Right.
And you're looking at that German Shepherd and that, and that Chihuahua and say, no. But dogs have been bred. Dogs have been bred for hundreds of years to get a Rottweiler or to get a Doberman Pinscher or to get a, whatever type, a bulldog. But if that bulldog get in heat and a Rottweiler jumps the fence and get with that bulldog, that female bulldog will have puppies. So why? Same species. Because the chromosomes of those dogs matches up perfectly. So if a man classifies himself as Asian, you take his sperm and puts it in a woman who classifies herself as Black at the right time of the month, she's going to get pregnant. Why? Because we're the same species. That kills race in its footsteps. Kills it, destroys it. Because if we were different, that means we couldn't procreate together. We couldn't make babies. And those babies couldn't grow up and make more babies. So thank you so much.
I believe your message. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, your message just needs to be pushed. I think what you're doing is a good thing. You just need to keep on. I think as you keep on, speaking this message on YouTube, you'll speak to a larger audience. Because I didn't hear this message until earlier this year, like last year. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Any more questions or comments you want to add in?
No, I'm good. I definitely appreciate the chance I got to speak with you. Hope you have a good day.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Black. You have a good day as well. All right. We got 5 people on the chat. Does anybody else want to call in? If not, I think I'm going to go ahead and wind it down. I said I was going to do this every Wednesday. If anybody's interested in discussing this every Wednesday and more, there's a lot of things that I did not get a chance to discuss tonight. But I think I'm going to start doing this every Wednesday. I'm in Louisiana. We're on Central Standard Time here in Louisiana. I'm still trying to figure this thing out. All right, roll across the pro.
To accept.
Yes, caller, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, this is Nika. I tried earlier.
How you doing, Nika?
I'm good, and yourself?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for calling, and thank you for not giving up on me, because I'm old headed, and you know how old heads are when it comes to technology. We're always 4 or 5 years behind, trying to keep up with stuff. So all of this stuff is new to me, trying to learn how to take calls and use this board that somebody bought me. And I thank you once again for just bearing with me. How are you doing today?
No problem. I'm good, and yourself?
I'm doing good, thank you. You have a question or a comment? Where are you calling from?
Well, I'm calling from the Bronx, New York.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Wow. Okay. How's the weather up there
tonight? And It's really been funky. This global warming is really something else because today, in February, we had a day where it felt like we should have been walking out our homes with no coats on.
Wow.
But we're supposed to be expecting a snowstorm later on this week. So it's just like really crazy.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Okay. All right. What's
Well,
your question?
My question is as I explained earlier through the chat, I had started reading the ISIS papers, and I was so intrigued on Dr. I'm sorry, is it Westling or Westling? I'm sorry, I don't know that's the last name.
Yeah, Dr. Francis Chris Welsing.
Correct, Welsing. Yeah. By reading her book, I was reading about it, and I was noticing how she talked about the albinos that did leave Africa, and those albinos who left Africa, that one of those groups may have possibly gone to Europe. But what my question is do you think that there's a possibility that there was some intermingling between the albinos that left Africa and Neanderthals? Because I mean, honestly, like, as much as I do understand that we are one human race, I don't want to be crude to anybody particularly, but I just know that there's a little bit something extra when it comes to the European race, if I'm going to put it in a category of something. And I guess I just wondered, like, because I know how one of the other groups that did migrate out of Africa, who went to China, and that's where obviously the chinky eyes, where your chinky eyes come from, and how they were able to then, I guess, not migrate, but I guess create their people. In other words, I don't even know how to really properly say it right now. But I guess I just wondered between those two groups, whether or not there was intermingling between Neanderthals, even though I know Neanderthals did not last on this earth, but the other ones did. I wonder if that's how that race did get produced in essence. And if that was kind of the same thing that kind of happened with the Asians as well, but obviously there was a different mix of genetics with the Asians, and maybe they also intermingled also with Neanderthals as well. You understand what I'm saying? Like, yes, I just don't know. Like, I guess I'm just looking for more understanding behind those groups of albinos that did leave Africa. What maybe possibly happened with them, and did they intermingle with any other creature, or is that just albinos and that's just how they are?
Yeah. Well, let me start off by saying thank you so much for calling in, taking time out of your busy schedule to call in. That's a great question that you have. To be honest with you, I have not studied Neanderthals. Okay. So I can't answer that. What I can answer is that any phenotype that you see in the world today, for example, you talked about the Asian population. I think a lot of times we describe people who classify themselves as Asian as having a particular type of skin color, eyes that appear to be small, but once again, the eyes aren't smaller than anyone else. It's what's called an epicanthal fold, a layer of skin that comes down a little further on the eyes that makes their eyes look smaller. And when you also talked about people who classify themselves as white, see, if you go to Africa, you're going to find the original phenotype of any so-called race. So, for example, if you go to Africa, you go to Central Africa, the Congo, places like that, you're going to see people, once again, they refer themselves as pygmies, or some people refer to them as bushmen. They're going to be short in stature, but they're going to have that epicanthal fold. If you can think of someone who classifies themselves as Asian, if you could think of that person dipped in black paint, you can actually go.
Yeah, that's like the Tutsi tribe.
Hmm?
I think is that supposed to be like the Tutsi,
that's right.
the
That's
Tutsi
right.
tribe
Yeah,
in Africa? They have the kinky eyes
Yeah.
and stuff. And I
Yeah.
guess really what your eyes, you have I guess what they call today in today's society, hooded eyes or
Yeah.
not eyebrow, hooded, oh gosh, it's just escaping me right now, the
Yeah.
word that I want to use. But you know that what I'm speaking about.
I
It's
do.
just the top part of your eye.
Yeah.
It's just hooded and stuff.
And it comes down.
Okay.
Doctor, I forgot about this book. It's called The African Presence in Early Asia. For those of you who don't know, not familiar with world geography. See, India is actually located in the continent of Asia. But Dr. Runoko Rashidi, great scholar who recently died back in Africa. He outlined everything that the caller is talking about right now when we talk about that human migration pattern. But he has hundreds of pictures in this book. If you could send me your address, I got several copies of this book. I'll send it to you free of charge because I got several copies of it.
Oh, that would be wonderful. I would love to read it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Man, people, I don't know what it is. It seems like all the great scholars are dying out early. But again, Dr. Runoko Rashidi, awesome scholar. He passed away a few months ago, but he left such a great legacy of books. He actually went to Asia himself. He went to Asia and he went to Africa, and he retraced the footsteps of our ancestors and their path when they left Africa, and eventually once again went east. But India was one of the first places, but they kept going east. And if you're familiar with world geography, you keep going east, eventually you're going to settle into the area that's known as Asia. And so they just kept going east, making babies, having sex, making babies. And this is how we populate the world. Everybody's here through sex. Right. We can't get around that. But it was so much sex going on over the generations. This is how the world is populated. If we take a bomb right now and blow up the whole planet, and we got a male and a female, let's say both of them are 17 years old, they could repopulate the whole world. Now, it's going to take time. It's going to take time. But you take a 17-year-old male and a 17-year-old female, that they're the only two people on this earth. It's going to take time, but they can repopulate this whole earth. And that's the beauty about genetics. It's our migration pattern, not just our migration pattern, but understanding the biological process that makes us look different. Do you have sisters or brothers?
I have half siblings, so I guess you say yes. I have a sister and two brothers.
Okay,
by my father, so different mothers.
Do you guys share some of the same physical features?
Yes, actually, between me and my sister, we obviously have different mothers. But the thing is that I think I get my big boobs from my paternal grandmother, and so does she. We both have the big boobs, and we also have our father's nose and his lips.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are there any features you notice you got from your mother?
Oh, I look like my mother. Like, honestly, her face, like what her face is, like minus her nose and her mouth. That's me. I'm essentially a carbon copy of her. So it's funny because she always told me, because my father is chocolate, and my mother is more, she's on the lighter side. She wouldn't be considered like a high yellow. So she's got some melanin, more melanin than a yellow bone would have. And so when I was created, she said that she always hoped that she would have popped out a chocolate baby. But through my research and looking at stuff, like and what you've been saying, actually, like, of course I was going to be picking up her skin color because she's my mother. I mean, like, and that's what was going to be dominant. I think that if it was the opposite, if she was dark and my father was the light one, I would have picked up her dark skin if she was the dark skin. I hope that's correct. Am I correct in what I'm saying?
Repeat that one more time so I can make sure you're on the same page. So you're saying your father is dark skinned and your mother is light skinned, and then you came out light skinned?
Yeah, I came out light skinned. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, see how that works is, once again, when your mother and father came together, the sperm from your father had all of his DNA, his characteristics, his dark skin, his lip size, his nose size, his hair texture, his fingernails, anything that you can think of, his voice. See, all of those things were in his sperm when it came to your mother's egg. Now, your mother, all of her genes were in the egg. And so when you were being formed in your mother's womb, even though those instructions from your father's DNA, your mother's DNA, her hair texture, her eyes, her lips, her ears, things of that nature, all those instructions are coming to the baby, but nobody knows how that baby that's forming in that womb is going to copy those genes. So it sounds like if you have light skin, the gene that codes gives us our skin color, you copied those from your mother, because if you would have copied them from your father, you would have been, your skin color would have been darker. So just because you copied some genes from your mother doesn't mean you're going to copy all of them, because like you said, you had some physical characteristics such as eyes or whatnot that you may have gotten from your father. You could have got your ears and your lips. Your genes could have copied those from your daddy. So when that baby is being formed in the womb, if you have any kids, when you were carrying that baby, all bets are off the table what that baby is going to look like once it's born.
True.
So all bets are off the table because nobody knows how that baby is copying those genes from the mother and the father. So sometimes that baby could come out and you're scratching your head and you're like, I don't see any resemblance to me, the mother. I don't see any resemblance to the father. But you know that's your baby. Because that baby didn't copy any of those genes. This is what we call a mutation. That just means a change in the DNA sequence. And so this is why people look different, because let's say you would have had identical twins. If you had identical twins, that means that both of those twins, both of those boys or girls, whatever it was, both of them had the exact same DNA sequence. They copied everything correctly. I mean, both of them copied everything. The eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears, the height, the hair texture, the eye color. They copied those things identical to each other. That's why they look alike. That's why they look exactly alike. And that's why some people have twins and, they don't look alike, because that DNA sequence, everything wasn't copied. One of the kids' twins copied this particular DNA sequence. The other one copied it different, and they look different.
Yeah.
But if you want to send me your address, I got a couple of copies of this book. I promise you, I'll be glad to get this out in the mail to you. I believe in literacy. I think, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I definitely am down for being able to have the opportunity to read that book, because I think I'm a geek for not DNA, but genealogy and stuff like that. Like, I'm always so intrigued on how we as the human race are created, like how, I guess, the sciences kind of come together and the mixtures and stuff. I'm not a science person, so I'm not going to even try to act like I'm so astute and stuff. But the point is, like, I love understanding the whole the DNA process and stuff like that. So I don't want to keep you on because you've been on for about 2 hours now, and I don't want to be the one to hold you up. So I would be happy to give you my address
Yeah,
to be able to send me that book. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, you could email it to me. My email address is listed in my YouTube account.
Okay. Thank you so much,
No,
Doctor. I really appreciated this talk. Like this was a wonderful talk, and I look forward to being back here next week. I probably won't try to call you because I'm not going to hold you up, but I'm going to be definitely here to hear more of what you have to teach us.
Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you for your kind words. And see, those things inspire me to keep going. Because I'll be honest, people. Sometimes when you're doing this type of work and you're not getting feedbacks, sometimes it could be disheartening because you're getting feedback from the opposition that keeps telling you, shut up, sit down.
Right.
You can't go up against this machine. You're only one person. We got millions of dollars that's backing us up. We got books. Mm-hmm. We're in the library. We're teaching thousands of kids this false indoctrination at these huge schools, and these schools, these are supposedly elite schools. So we're producing other elite scholars who are going to continue to promote our agenda that race is real and race is true and is there's actually something as a white person, there's actually something as a black person, there's actually something as an Asian and a Hispanic. And people, race relations are not going to ever get better if we don't sit down and we have a candid conversation and say, you know what? There's no such thing as race. I'm 54 years old. What would you feel about me, Nakia, if I said at 54 years old, I still believe in Santa Claus?
God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. Exactly.
I mean,
what? Okay.
What you want to believe?
Yeah. Now, okay. So what if I opened up a school, Nakia, and you said, okay, Ahmose, I like him. I think he's a good educator. I'm going to send my kids to his school, and you find out I'm teaching your kids about the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus. What would you do?
I would have to have a conversation with my children when they got home, because I think that wouldn't be the best kind of information to tell my kids, because if my kids come home with that information, I guess I wouldn't like it. I'll just say that. I'm gonna just leave it at that. I would not want them to be told that, because all of those people are fictional. They're not real. And
exactly.
So why you gonna teach?
Exactly.
Fiction.
Yeah, exactly. now. The answer I was hoping you would say was, I would get my kids out of that school as quickly as possible and never send them back again. Because
I thought that at first, but I didn't want to be so boisterous and say that. No. I did think that originally.
Yeah. Because again, people, it's not real. If I opened up a school and said I'm teaching about the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus, I would be the laughing stock of the education system. Race is the same thing. Race is just like the Tooth Fairy. Race is just like the Easter Bunny. It's just like Santa Claus. It was made up by a man to promote a particular agenda. Another book. White by Law. My goodness. People, this book is so powerful. Why is this book so powerful? Because it shows, it backs up why people came up with this racial classification system, why they define white as being good, why they define black as being bad and evil and dirty. So when you had so many immigrants who were coming to the United States in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they were coming from Ireland. They were coming from Germany. I'm sorry, scratch Germany. They were coming from Ireland. They were coming from Italy. They were coming from all types of countries, from Europe. And one of the first things they wanted to do was, when they got here, they wanted to classify themselves as white.
Right.
But the people who were here, the Anglos, they were like, no, No, you ain't. No, you're not white. No, you're Italian.
Right.
You're not. You're not white. You're Italian. You're Irish.
Yeah.
You live on this side of town. You can't stay over here with the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. Now, what this book also documents is around later on, they start having a change of heart and they start accepting people who were coming across from countries such as Ireland, Italy, whatnot. They start accepting them as their classification to be white. Because what? The numbers increased.
Because
because
that means that meant that there was more of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Than us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course.
Exactly. That's how the population increased. Because originally the WASP, the white Anglo-Saxons, they were like, if you ain't Anglo, no. You still you got that.
But then they realized they was in the minority.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Speak on it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to say I was trying to say I was like, yeah, they saw that they were actually in the minority by that point, and so then they was like, okay, no, we're gonna accept you now. We're like, you come in, Irish people, you come in, Jewish people. That's okay. You go ahead on that census. You go ahead and you put down on that census that you're white.
That's it. And the numbers,
because it just boosts up their numbers.
That's right. And this book, by Dr. Lopez, chronicled all those things. How the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants suddenly had a change of heart, and they said, "No, we'll accept you." That's what they meant by white by law. Powerful book, people. Powerful book.
Right.
So I applaud you.
Look at that book.
Oh, it's a great book. I don't have an extra copy of that one, but I do have some extra copies of Dr. Rashida's book. And again, I'll make sure that you send me your address. I'll get that out to you. Let me read this comment.
Of course.
You're documenting all over social media, so at least we can start the conversation. Thank you so much, Mr. Black. Because again, we got to start this conversation, and people with common sense can listen, and the rest can open their eyes. I don't know if you guys tuned in to when I was speaking earlier in the evening. I talked about my first screening of the documentary was at Southern University, a historically black college and university in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And then I screened it at LSU, a predominantly white institution, also located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Got huge positive response from both universities. I started talking after we screened at LSU. I started talking with Ohio State University, another predominantly white university located in Columbus, Ohio, Big Ten University. I was in talks with them to go to Columbus, to Ohio State to present there. Everything was positive. Everything was going good. A couple of weeks later, I get a phone call from Ohio State. They said, cancel. Well, what's going on?
Yeah, that was a little bit too much true for them.
They couldn't give me a straight answer. They just said, after further discussion, we talked it over. After talking it over with some of the people, I guess board of supervisors, presidents, deans, or whatnot, they said, we don't feel that it's in our best interest to have you up here at this time. We'll get back with you later. And if I'm not mistaken, that was back in 2017. Never heard back from them. So there are people who understand science, but there are also people who understand, hey man, anytime that someone is asserting, even though it's backed up by empirical evidence, that all people, even people who classify themselves as white, we can trace your DNA to a small population that once was in Africa around 200,000 years ago. There is so much money being funneled to keep that empirical evidence quiet. Shut up. Just ignore people who are saying those things. Even though the evidence supports it and it backs it up, they just said, hey, man. Ignore them. It's sad, people.
Yeah.
It's sad.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree totally.
Yeah.
But thank you for taking my call. I do appreciate it. I love your work. And like I said, I look forward to hearing more from you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You have a good night.
Thank you. Do the same.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye. All right, we got 4 people. What is it, 9:15? I'll take one more call if anybody else wants to call in. If not, I think I said earlier that I'm going to do this every Wednesday. Hopefully we can gain some momentum. We can all talk, discuss these things. You know, it's amazing how, you know, we still live in a society where people still want to control how people think. You know, one of the great things about America that America was supposed to be founded upon was what? Free thinking, a democracy, not communism where the government thinks for you. You know, there are some countries where the government dictates what you can say or what you can learn or what you can think, what you can do, what you can say, and then what cannot be said. But America was founded upon different principles, was supposedly founded upon different principles. Freedom of speech, not just freedom of speech. But this thing, what I'm learning, people, it's a huge battle over controlling narrative, how people think. I saw that firsthand, not just in the United States, but India. You know, I promise you, people, I'm gonna beat that drum about that caste, CASTE system in India, because it's based on one thing and one thing only, what they call Varna, VARNA. That word means color. And you can just imagine who at the top, and you can imagine who at the bottom, and we're talking about millions and millions and millions of people. People, India is a little bit bigger than Texas, but it has 5 times the population, 4 times the population of the United States. My goodness. I'm not even going to talk about Brazil, Dominican Republic, Haiti. It's a huge battle of the control of the mind all across the world. All right, so if there are no questions, no comments, man, time flies. It's 9:18 already. All right, as the late, great DJ, a man by the name of Mr. E. Rodney Jones, he used to always say, if the good Lord willing and the creeks don't rise, I'll see you this time next week. I'm on Central Time down here in Louisiana. So this time, 7 o'clock next week, next Wednesday. I'll see you then. Everybody have a good night.